Good afternoon, or sorry, good evening, everybody. It's Mike Pisani. It is Tuesday, 25th of July. God, I wanted to say Thursday. A little out of it, tired tonight. Um, and we're here tonight to talk about how to trade post earnings on stock names and why I like to do that instead of trade earnings. We're going to go over market sentiment, and we're also going to go the option flow review for the week so far. And most of it's been earnings plays, so we're going to focus on stuff that was not earnings trades tonight. As always, if you want to get a hold of me, send me an email at mike@alphashark.com or hit me up on Twitter at optionsmike. Any questions, put them out in there, and we'll go from there. Let's see if I can. All right. So our risk disclaimer: day trading, short-term trading, options trading, and futures trading are extremely risky undertakings. They are generally not appropriate for someone with limited capital, little or no trading experience, and or low tolerance for risk. Never execute a trade unless you can afford to and are prepared to lose your entire investment. All trading operations involve serious risk and you can lose your entire investment. No trades are recommendations or advice, and we cannot be sued for losses of capital. All trades are for educational purposes only. Contact your broker or RIA for execution margin and other capital requirements. Everyone watching this presentation adheres to all disclaimers on optionhacker.com, alphashark.com, and me, Mike Pisani. Yay, got that over with. All right, so again, tonight we're going to talk about how to trade post earnings and why I like to trade post earnings instead of earnings. We'll go over the sentiment in the market. We did this last Thursday, so it's only been a couple of days, but it's been some little changes. This week's flow, it's only 2 days, but these are the names I want you guys to take a look at. We're going to talk about Micron, Costco, Ulta, Apple, Western Digital, and Splunk. Going to get the last time you guys can get my service offering on the cheap is this for the month. And then if we have time, we'll go over charts into the close. I hope that sounds good to everybody. All right, why trade post earnings? So I know you guys love to trade earnings because I get literally this time of year, I get constantly sidebarred and lots of messages. Hey, how should I trade this for earnings? What would you do for this earnings? What do you think about this name for earnings? So for me, they're pure gambles, right? But post earnings flow will tell you where the big money is going to go. Flow into earnings, it doesn't seem to make a difference. I've been doing this for a while, guys. I will tell you that whether there's a tremendous amount of call buying or put buying into earnings, it doesn't seem to really matter. It doesn't really seem to change the odds any more or less in your favor. My 2 cents. So why not to trade earnings? Again, complete gamble. If stock has a solid beat, it still may sell off or not even move. So great example was Google, not last night, right? Google beat big, bottom and top, good guidance, sold off 30 bucks. So, even though it did good, it has the overhang still of some of the fines, and it just wasn't enough to move the needle after that big run. We saw that in Microsoft as well. When you're trading earnings trades, you're trading with options that are jacked up. The market makers jack up the implied volatility. This makes them usually twice or more expensive than they normally are. Look at the IV on an options chain for earnings, a big company earnings next week. Usually they're double on the implied volatility. Google calls this week are going, Amazon calls this week are going in the 20s when you can usually get them for probably about $6 to $7. So it tells you it's making a huge difference. They're jacking them up, a lot of expense there to make your money. Look at the implied move. The implied move is telling you how much the stock has to move for you to make money. They very often will work hard to try to contain the move to within there so they don't have to pay out anybody and they just keep the premium. You see this a lot in some of the names. Not Netflix, obviously. Google did not hit the implied move last night. So just to give you some idea. No, Raymond, I'm not familiar with that one, but thanks. I'll take a look at it afterwards. So that's another reason. And the risk reward. Before the options market open, remember, the market opens, but the option market usually takes a minute or two to get going. It's a little bit delayed. The stock's going to move. Not only is the stock going to move, the first thing they do when they open it, they make the spreads wide because they've had a move on it, and they start draining the IV out. It's very hard to get out in the first couple minutes. In fact, oftentimes you're better off if you're in the right direction, sitting in it and giving it a couple minutes to shake out, because generally it'll come back. So again, be very careful. If you really want to trade options, these are the reasons I don't trade options and earnings anymore, and I used to. And I've found it better now to trade after earnings. So here's why. First off, you have two new points of reference. On a gap up or gap down, you now have that gap to trade against. So if we look at Google, when we look at that, we now know we have a low of 963.80 going into tomorrow to trade against, and now we have the gap that goes up to about $1,003. So we now have, two areas of reference here to take a look at. So today's high, I think, was about 976, 977, somewhere in there. So we have 2 points of reference now to trade against in that range. Start trading it. The IV drains out quickly. We talked about this, but the good news for us as options players is everything. Side charts will be up in a minute, Simon. Just hang tight there. Everything returns to normal. So Google options for the rest of the week now are now priced normally. This is good. That means we could play as normally. We're not playing with options that are overpriced or overvalued. We can trade the price action as we see it. Normal trading rules apply. You can play your technical setups. You can play, how the price action's coming in, how the volumes is coming in, and play purely off of that, not off of a news or event, which we have no control of and often does not move to technicals, at least initially. And lastly, and more importantly, option flow. Post-earning option flow, which is really one of my favorite plays, guys. I've been playing it for the last week, played it heavily again today. They come in and they give you the direction, another indicator on direction. If stock had good earnings and they're buying puts left and right on it, beware it might sell off. If it comes in and it had good earnings and they're buying calls on it, it's probably going to go higher at that point. So I love playing post earnings trades. So we're going to go over a couple that are in play here now and that I still like. So we're going to start off with Netflix because everybody loved Netflix, right? So initially, once it opened, it sold off about $4 or $5, right? We sold down towards the 73 level, 173 level, and it gave a nice low risk entry. And that's typically what happens, right? You can see here on the chart, they come in, the people who were in the stock take their profits quickly and get out, right? They're greedy. They're not greedy. They want to get out. They don't want to hold on. They want to take their money and get out. Any shorts that are in there may start covering at that point, right? So they know, they're taking their money. Shorts may start covering, right? And then what do we see? Call buyers started moving in real quick into Netflix. It started turning back up. They hit the September 185 calls quickly. They hit the August 11th to 10 calls quickly. Those are still out there. There's a lot of other bets too, but it's hard on that day because there's a lot of rolling out of options. And every day since then, we've seen call buying in the name, indicating to me that this move is likely not over yet. And for me, I'm just kind of waiting here for the moving averages to catch up. You see the 8-day now coming up. The stock's doing a very nice slow pullback towards it. I'd like to see if we can get those two to connect with some call buying coming into it at the same time. So this could be in the next day or two. So this is something I keep my eye on for a nice setup. Again, these setups are always valid as long as the market holds up. If the market goes into sell-off mode, none of these setups matter, right? We all know that. So Netflix, nice trades after earnings, great call support, nice directional support. C. So C had earnings over in here. And banks very rarely do big moves on earnings, and this no exception this time. And since then, it's kind of just slowly drifted down, right? It hasn't been able to hold the 8-day, came into the 21-day, and then yesterday we started seeing call buyers show up in force. They were massive buying in the weekly 67 calls. By the way, those were a double very quickly after the open today, and then they hit the August 66 calls late yesterday afternoon. We gapped up and we never looked back today. Ran all day long. Weekly 69 call sweepers came in right away. September 67.50 calls were bought big. Big blocks of those came in late. It's not to all-time high. It's not even close to all-time high. It's not even close to its recent high here. It's a little extended. You got a little doji. Might need a session or two, but this one, depending on what the Fed says tomorrow, likely to try to go higher here. I would not take this until after the Fed tomorrow, guys. Just make sure the Fed doesn't throw us a curveball. I really don't think they will, but one never knows. So you can see where the call flow came in, the stock did nothing. You could have just ignored it, and yesterday it gave you your hint. Time to go play. FCX was today. I hope some of you guys caught this with me. So one of my favorite reactions is a muted earnings reaction. You can see here, earnings were released pre. We had almost no reaction going into the open, and as soon as the open came in, they came in quickly. They swept up the 1350 weekly calls and the August 14s. I jumped on the August 14s into this candle and rode it for a bit. Got out too early. I definitely should have stayed longer in it, no doubt about it. First dip right into here, they came screaming back for it. They got the August 13 and the August 1550 calls. Again, you could have stayed long versus this if you gotten in earlier. Here, you could have said, I'm going to go back in and try it. Another nice move up to the 15 area, didn't quite hit it. And then late in the day, the weekly 15s were swept and the September 18 calls were swept. Again, you could have played earnings, and if you had played earnings and you opened up, you probably were watching the IV drain out of your options, and you would have a hard time making money on this. Once the IV drained out, you can go in here and you can make money on these moves, and you can see the call support was there all day long for this move. You guys have any questions on this and how I'm playing these names here? What I'm doing instead of playing and taking the risk of earnings with it? Going to keep going. So FCX, name on your radar, big move today for that one, $2 here, but something definitely to keep an eye on, especially on any weakness. Halliburton. So Halliburton was on Monday morning. The initial reaction was sold, right? We came in, we gapped up and sold off hard. Into the sell-off, into the blood, they came in and they swept up the August 42 puts here. And then as it started coming back down, they hit it a second time. I didn't play these because they came in late. I didn't touch it. I didn't like the action too much. I wasn't sure what they were going to do. And drifted down throughout the day. Today, right on the open, they hit the August 45 calls and bought them up again. Closed mostly flat. Crude is up big after hours, and I mean big. We're over 48. Last I saw, we hit 44.66. So I would keep an eye on Halliburton tomorrow because you have also all the other energy names coming in, COP and CVX. XLE starts going. This earnings is already over. There's call buyers in it. It could run. Raymond, I have Trade Alert. I'm watching the real time as they come in, and making my basis off of that. Nice, Clint. Don, it really depends upon what I'm playing. So we'll go over one here. So like on FCX, I was looking for a scalp, Don, and I was looking to play it for 10 to 20 cents and get out on multiple on a decent size. On Southern names, I'm looking for bigger moves. It depends upon the name and what I'm looking for. All right. Post earnings Google. So Google, nice gap down, right? We gapped down about $30 and started drifting lower this morning into the close after the open. And you know, $30 for Google, guys, is nothing. It really, really, really is nothing. Guys, we'll go over charts later, right? So just keep your questions for later on, and we'll hit them then. And one thing I know about Google is it always tends to have a really rough reaction to earnings. It very rarely moves big on earnings. Oftentimes, it can be very muted. So why do I like Google here? And you're asking about what am I looking at here? Into the low of the morning, we had a sweeper of the November 990 calls. Not a sweeper, a block bet, but it was a big one. About $3.8 million worth of the November 990 calls were bought. Now, I'm not going to play those. Those are real expensive. What I'm looking here to do is probably buy, if again, the market holds up and based on what maybe Amazon does and Facebook a little bit later this week, is I'm going to look at the either August 990 or 1000 calls, buy a couple and see if I can get a nice run up into that. I'll scalp it for day trades based upon how the stock action is, but I'm going to look for a move back towards that 1000 area within the next month. So that's what I'll look there, and I won't do this though until I see a reversal candle. So now that we have our low of 963.80, a reversal candle to me would be we open below that tomorrow, we trade below it, and then we reverse and get back above that. That would be an indication for me to try to take that trade. On a daily chart, Google is flirting with the 50-day. So that's something I would take a look at there. And that's how I would trade that. And I will plan to trade that moving forward. JNJ. This one is kind of interesting to me. This one I didn't go in today because it was later in the afternoon. I just didn't feel like going in. Um, but you can see on earnings, it initially popped, right? Earnings are good, popped up, nice couple day run, and then has sold off for 3 days and come down into the 50-day. And some support here, right? You can see some of these candles here. There is definitely support right where it's at. And then we had in this afternoon, an August 25th, 131 call sweeper of decent size. Now, you went in the money, just in the money, or right at the money, I should say. So tomorrow, I'm going to be watching this on the price action. If it hits the 50-day and holds, I'm going to go long those. It was kind of a weird strike too, the August 25th ones instead of the August. He took the extra week. He went with options. He was the only guy out there. There was zero in open interest. So this is just one of those interesting ones I would take a look at here. I don't always just trade the beta names, guys. Names like this can give you a nice trade. 131 back to 135 here, 132 to 135 would be a nice trade. I'll take that any day on options. And this is one I would look to try to trade up into the moving average, the 8 and the 21 day. Any questions on how to trade after earnings, why I like to trade after earnings instead of trading earnings, right? So when you trade earnings, you're taking all the risk. When you trade the next day, you're getting a better read. It's like trading in a normal trading environment, but you still have the momentum and the volume in the names. And the one thing I do like about the names that have earnings right now, the market doesn't have much volume. These names have volume in them. So tomorrow, X, AMD, CMG, pick your names that we're all watching today that out there are going to have volume, be playable, and don't forget about the names that are going to move with them. Nvidia is already up big this morning. Look at Micron, that's going to move as well. So take a look at some of the names in the sector and see how they're reacting as well. They may get a nice bump after some of the other ones went. Any questions on that before we move on to sentiment? All right. So, I always like to give you guys a view of the markets. So the fear and greed index keeps chugging up here. We're moving up. We're in the 80s now, extreme greed. Yay. What does this tell me, guys? It tells me just to be playing smaller. By the way, on this gap up this morning, I was closing positions. I am now very, very light in terms of options. I was taking profits and taking small losses in positions that I thought may or may not be able to run today and basically lightening up ahead of this. Not saying the run's over, just being a little bit more cautious here. So sentiment from StockTwits, SPYs at 64%, 70% is when I get very nervous. We're not there yet, we're inching towards it. Qs are at 70%, 80% is what really gets me nervous. And believe it or not, the IWM, which was getting me into that nervous area, has dropped down the last couple days. So we're down to 70. It's a little high. I'd like to see it come in a little bit, but the IWM has been basing forever, so I'm not surprised it's going to be a little bit more bullish here. The oscillators, believe it or not, on all these moves, the oscillators come in. It's just how they're rotating money around in the markets right now and what they're doing, and you can see that the New York, the NYMOT, which is the New York Stock Exchange oscillator, we're down to only plus 39. We were over plus 100 last Thursday. So this is a nice little cool off, giving us room to run. On the NASDAQ, same thing, plus 39. Plenty of room to run on the oscillators right now. Nowhere near overbought or oversold, closer to neutral. Like this a lot. The VIX. New all-time intraday low. I think we hit 904 today. So I am going to share with you guys this. I am long a hedge for the first time in a long time, actually since the markets, the election last November. I am now long November VXX13 calls at about $1.06, and the reason is that we're heading into the hardest summer once earnings end in the next week or so. We're in August, and September and October are historically the most treacherous months in the market. And I do have a lot of common longs, so I took a little bit of a hedge with the VIX here at this point because it's cheap. And why not? Nice little hedge to have in case something happens here, right? Don't have to have a huge size or position, just something there enough to give yourself a little bit of a hedge. Raymond, do I correlate fear and greed index in the VIX? I've never looked at that, Raymond. I'll have to take a look at that next time. Thanks. That's a good idea. I've never looked at that before. I will say the VIX down here, I would say it should be scary, but it doesn't seem to care. Look how far we're staying under 10. 8 sessions in a row now. Again, one of the reasons I'm putting a hedge on. I'm not saying game over. I'm not trying to call a top in the market here, guys. Everybody I know that does this is usually ultimately wrong. I'm just saying I'm going to lighten up and put a hedge on for my long common positions. That's it. Just a little bit of common sense. All right, the Qs. So we're in the heart of earnings sectors this week in the Qs, and here we are. We're right by all-time highs. We hit that yesterday, pulled back a little today on Google coming in. Qs were definitely weaker today, but everything looks fine. You have a beautiful run holding the 8-day. We haven't even touched the 8-day since we broke above it on the gap up, right? We haven't even touched it. So everything looks good here. With the earnings last night, I expect the Qs to be pretty strong tomorrow at this point. Amazon, Facebook on Wednesday, Apple next week. We got Baidu. We got Baidu as well. So a lot of stuff coming on here. The SPX, is it getting tired? I don't know. We definitely got a new all-time high and a little bit of a doji candle up there today. It's run a lot. RSI is still only like 67. It can run higher here, so I'm not sounding the alarm, but I will tell you it's definitely getting a little tired here and a little bit little wonky. So just it's just saying, yeah, be a little bit more cautious. Really, what it's saying, guys, is take profits in sectors when you have them, when they've moved a lot, and look for the rotation. Don't just sit in names at this point. Take profits, be nimble. Try not to just sit. Sitting's going to can get you in trouble. And we saw that in biotech today, right? We go over that in a bit. IWM finally broke out on a volume candle today, and it's at the top of the Bollinger Band. So I would look for this one to try to ride higher at the top of the Bollinger Band. If banks are strong and energy is strong, this thing is going to keep going. It's been in a long, long channel here and just getting going. So I would keep an eye on this one and watch for rotation to small caps and energy names, and especially depending on what the Fed says tomorrow, possibly the regional banks. All right, option flow. You guys ready? Any questions on everything we went over? So sentiment to me remains, it's getting heated, but not to the danger point yet. All right, so we're going to talk today about Micron. So first up in Micron, we have the gap down today. Gap down, there was news out of overseas in Asia that was not good, and it started Micron gapping down, and then STX hit, and we really came down on that, and we closed on the lows. From a technical perspective, right now, I am not fond of this chart. Also notice Micron did not bounce with AMD like NVIDIA did. So I'm a little nervous. We lost the 821 day. We lost the 50 day. That nice tight setup we had here has been destroyed, and here's your 100 day below it. But we did have today, October 32 calls were bought with size, about $200,000 worth. Then a large buyer in the money, and they do like to buy in the money calls on Micron. January 26 calls, 400,000 of them. And then late in the day, we saw an August 28 50 call buyer, about 670,000 of them. And you can see them here on the arrows. So there's a lot of call support that continues to come in. We did close on the lows, volume distribution. I would wait for a candle to reverse and trade back above. I would not chase it necessarily on the open here at this point. Look for some type of reversal candle on this before I entered it. The problem today is this week is most of the call activity has been around earnings plays, and it makes it very difficult. Apple, Apple yesterday, they came after pretty early. So it gave a nice little dip on the open where you could have gotten long, and then they started hitting into Apple. They were coming after the weekly 148s, September 160s, a weekly 152.50s, January 165s, next week's 155s, which catches earnings, and then December 165 calls yesterday. And they kept sweeping this as it went up, and late in the day they go it again, and it pushed it into highs. Opened up weak, right? Opened up red and then gave an explosive first 15-minute candle. On the 5-minute chart, you can see that first candle was really explosive. And then they came sweeping for it again today. They hit the October 160 calls. And what else did they hit? The October 160, the weekly 155, and then the next week's 160s caught us a nice size sweeper. The blue arrows are noting where the call flow came in, Raymond. That's how I do to note it. So when it comes in, I put a blue arrow there so I can see it. I now know where the price action was and the time it came in on the day. I do it manually. Fortunately, there's no easy, I don't know of any way to do it otherwise. If you hear of one, let me know. I have yet to find one. But it makes for a nice visual, and so when I look at a chart like Apple, I can see how much flow is coming into it, right? Even just looking at the daily chart right here. So Apple, I like it. So Apple to me looks good. I think it's going to run back to this 150 tie price. Any weakness, I think, is a buying opportunity. The name, it is riding the 8-day. So God forbid it pulls to the 8-day on some weakness, I would take advantage of it. It's unlikely you're going to get that, so you're going to have to try to get any weakness, buy it, and try to trade it higher. What else? Ulta. So Ulta has been beaten the hell out of, right? Since the earnings up here, put that earnings here, put that nice high in at 314, and it's been just selling off. And the 8-day, I'm going to zoom in here for you guys, the blue line has been in control, right? Notice it can't get above it. No closes above the 8-day since we broke it back here on June 12th. It's a long time for a moving average to be in control. They tried to buy calls down here. They popped it to the 8-day, and that's all she got. Now we're back retesting that low. So look how long it took to retest this to really get down towards the lower low here. It took a long time to get down here. And today they came in simultaneously. I thought it was a spread at first, but it wasn't. They bought the September 1st 267.50 calls, 800 plus $1,000 of them, and the September 265 calls, 500,000 plus of them. That was a sweeper. The other one was a block trade. Notice we pushed to the 8-day here. I almost took some overnight, guys. What made me hesitate, and you can see the sweepers came in right here on this candle. Look at the candle reaction to that, right? That's always a good sign. When you see that come in, you get a nice reaction to that. The only reason I did not buy it, it's been a rough name, and I'd rather wait until it gets over the 8-day and maybe try to buy it back on weakness tomorrow and see from there. But if you like Ulta, it's a name I would take a look at here based upon that options flow. WDC. Been a lot of call buying in this name lately. Played it, made nice money on it back in here. While it was going sideways, they kept buying calls onto it. So what happened today? Anybody know why it was down so much early? See if you guys are still paying attention to me. It was a sympathy move to STX earnings. Yep, you got it, JD. Thank you. Sympathy move on STX. Look at the move down right? Move down hard. Yep, right, MJ. What happened quick and early in the day? We got a call buyer came rushing in and hit the August 100 calls, and it got it moving. Nice run to 95 before it petered out. Great question, Kurt. A sweeper is a buyer, a player that comes in, he goes across multiple exchanges to get filled as quickly as possible. A block is somebody that takes the time to negotiate buying the X amount of options with a single exchange. So while still bullish, not as bullish as somebody who wants them as quick as possible. Make sense? All right. So WDC, I would watch for it to get above the 8-day, but it does have earnings coming, so I'd be careful with that. Costco, I did get long Costco into the close. All right, so since this got down after the Amazon news, right? It's been in control. The 8-day has been in control. This was a gap up here based upon their same store comp numbers. came down quickly. All right, gapped up, came down, hasn't been able to regain the 8-day. I did make money here, playing the bounce off that call sweeper into the 8-day and took it off. And today it retook the 8-day. For the first time, we're getting a close above the 8-day. And late in the afternoon, one of the things that got me excited here is we had an August 4th 155 call sweeper, about $90,000+ worth. That kept adding into it a little bit. I did not take those. I gave myself a little more time. Was the one thing I told you guys when I talked to you about summer trading. Buy time. So I bought the August 155s instead. I will give these a little bit of leeway, though not a lot, because it's a beaten up name. I closed about flat on the day. I think it was down like 3 cents on those options. I'll probably give them about 15 to 20 cents of leeway, and that would be my cutoff on them. So depending on how we open tomorrow, I may or may not stay with them long. But I do like Costco as a bounce play here. My bounce would be up first the 21-day, which is coming down, and then maybe the 200-day if it really wants to get jiggy. Okay? That is a technical term, by the way, I'm now coining, get jiggy. Jiggy little move. You can thank my friend Katie for that. Last one, Splunk. I talked about this on Thursday, I think. Why I'm bringing it up again, it hasn't moved. In fact, since the initial sweepers came in, it's sold off, but it's held the 8-day, right? It's holding the 8-day, and they've come in every day since then. So yesterday they hit the September 70s, and today they hit the September 65s. Why am I bringing your guys' attention to this? Because it's not moving, because they keep coming for it. And usually when they keep coming for it, they're right. And you notice where they're playing. They're playing up here, the 70s and the 65s. They're not playing in the money or at the money. They're playing for a big move here, and they keep coming for it. So you have a gap that starts at 64. So the first thing I would do, guys, if you like this name, and I've not had good luck with this name, I would play for a move to 64. And I would trim some there unless it exploded right into the gap that day, which these things rarely do lately. And then maybe leave some runner for a gap fill up towards the 67 area. Open means just an opening sweep, Rudy. So it's only 2 days in. The rest of the flow, guys, this week has been all around earnings. And I don't want to share you guys earnings flow because I don't have a feel on or anything I want to share with you or misguide you on. All right. So where are we at now? We're going to take that down, go back here. So now you got to listen to my 2-minute pitch for my service offering. And then I'm going to open it up to your charts. I hate when this thing does this. Okay. So what you get, a private, exclusive, unusual option mentoring, and you get a daily recap. So every day I do a daily video recap, Monday through Friday. It says Thursday. I've been doing one on Friday as well. Each one of these days, I'm updating my positions, telling you what I played in today. More importantly, I'm giving you my feel on the market and where we are today and what the option flow looked like throughout the day and what is still playable going into tomorrow, what I like there at that point. Every Thursday night, we do a webinar. This is a coaching mentoring webinar for service members only at 6 p.m. Often they run late. This is where you get to come in and ask any questions, go over positions, and just take advantage of my knowledge and stuff that it's hard to give to you guys during the trading day. So we go over that. We take our time. Sometimes I'll share with you different thoughts or different technical setups. One time trading went over my entire technical setup with the group. So, all different things like that. We do a monthly boot camp every third Saturday of the month at noon Eastern. We do an hour to 2-hour boot camp on different topics. Trading options 101, technicals, how to use sentiment, all different thoughts like that. And sometimes it's based upon stuff you're looking for. In addition to this, I am experimenting with a live Twitter feed that shows real-time option flow. And if you sign up now, you're going to get to see it and get included in it for now. So I'm giving you a reason to get involved here. So to sign up, this is the last week of the special. It ends on Monday. Go to alphashark.com/bestcoaching, alphashark.com/bestcoaching, and it's $49 for the first month, $99 renewal. That is pretty cheap, guys. You're not going to get that type of stuff anywhere else. You get the daily video reviews, you get the mentoring webinar each week and the boot camp, and you get to play with and see real-time option flow and what I'm doing real-time every day in the live Twitter feed. So I encourage you guys all to take advantage of that now before the price goes back up. I'm going to send it to you all in message here, so if you want to go out and take a look at it, and that's what it'll look like when it gets there. All right. You guys ready to look at some charts for the last 25 minutes or so? I know you guys like looking at charts. All right, let's get started here. You guys want to talk earnings stuff. All right, so let's take some earnings stuff. So I'm going to have to keep this up for a minute while we do that. So the earning names I saw here so far. Okay, I'm going to come back to Cliff and BMY. So I'm going to start with Amgen, and then I'm going to get out of here, guys, okay? And go to my normal charts. All right, guys, so Amgen had great earnings. They raised guidance, and they got sold off, and I'm not really sure why. It's been a busy night, and I haven't had a chance to look. I will say this. They ran a long way into here at this point. It's a nice, maybe just not enough to move the bar here. So we're opening at 176. So we're opening really right around the 21 day. Can you see the 21 days right here? Just right around that area, 175, 176 area. So in all things said, Remu, that is not a horrible sell-off for a name. Just see how it opens up there and what it plays like and see what else it does. One thing I want to cover with you guys real quick is the IBB gapped up and sold off today quickly. By the way, I was long a lot of XBI calls. I sold them on the open, made my money, and got out. It was the right move. I got lucky. So don't read anything into that other than I knew it was extended and getting heated here, which is why I look to take my profits here and get out. See how this handles this area is your clue for Amgen and the other biotechs. We held the 8-day with a big down candle. You want to see it hold the 8-day. If the IBB can hold this area, the 322 area into the close tomorrow, I think biotech can bounce. Makes sense? BIB, another name, biotech. Good earnings last night, right? Good earnings last night, gapped up and sold off here. Came down into the 200-day. So the 200-day is right there with the 8-day. Here's your 200-day coming in. Sorry, I had to take a look at it. Again, if IBB holds in, I like it. If not, I would look for more downward movement in it from here. I do think they like biotech here. We also are waiting for the healthcare vote. I think that is playing into some of this. All right, guys, so here we go. AMD, post earnings. Guys, I don't know. What a move. All I'll say on this is what a hell of a move. So we're going to open up somewhere around 1560-ish, right around here, right? Way above all the recent highs here at this point. See the action. This is what we call pro gap. A lot of times you're going to get continuation to the upside on a gap like this. Watch for the initial pull on the open as people take profits, and then see if the call sweepers come in and go from there. Yeah, okay? If not, look at other names like NVIDIA, which also move big off of this. CMG, I can't tell you how to trade this thing, guys. I really wish I could here. Earnings were mixed, but they raised the guidance, and they did which I can't imagine how they're going to raise guidance with another, this last couple episodes. And it did move up. It's into the 8-day here. So it did not even have enough power to get out of the 8-day. Unless you see action coming into it, I would look to short it at the 8-day or avoid it altogether at this point. All right. X. So you guys all saw me live sell my X calls this morning, and the first pop this morning on the morning move, because I don't play earnings. So what happened here? It's going to open up at 27. The gap fill is up higher. I would look for continuation in this name. Maybe not tomorrow. It may need a day. X trades sloppy, so you need to be extra careful with it. All right. By the way, right here, this day, do you remember this day? This is when that analyst, I would use a nasty word, but I'm going to be nice, said, according to our software, they're going to miss and lower guidance again. And we sold off. Remember, it looked so good here, and I was all the call buying, and we came all the way down to the 50-day? Yeah, I guess that guy was wrong. I guess he was really wrong. guess he wanted to buy it cheaper. So you got to always be careful what these guys say here. I did stay with it and I added to and made money on it, so I was happy with that. So X, I would look for continuation to fill this gap. Gap fill goes much higher. All right, let's get going here. I'm going to come back up now because I know I missed some of you guys and I'm not forgetting about you. Cliff, CLF, Cliff's Natural Resources. All right, there we go. So I don't know where earnings are. That's the only thing I'm going to caution you with. It's had a nice move here. This whole sector is kind of getting a nice move lately. It's right at the 200-day. This is a big area for it, right? If it gets above the 200-day and holds it, it's also the top of the Bollinger Band. I'd look for a move. I'd look for the top of this candle to 875. I think that would be your next area where real resistance would come in. Right around 875 or maybe even 9 if it really wants to get going. Play the action on it. RSI is going to get heated pretty quickly. After that gap up in the 200-day here in the Bollinger Band, you might get a couple of days of sideways action before it goes. Or maybe even if you're lucky, a little bit of weakness. Perish the thought. I mean, God forbid we get a red in the markets here. BMY. Man, Bristol Myers. Remember Kramer that? You have this big gap here still at 62 that's still sitting up here and they have not touched it. You have a lot of ugliness. Earnings are tomorrow or soon. And this name, you have a long sideways channel. I hate when I do this because it makes my screen flash. And you don't even have that. Yeah, you don't have there's no real good line to draw here. Sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't, guys. If again, watch biotech. If biotech's going to go higher, this should go up, but you got earnings first, so be careful. By the way, pure biotech names like Celgene and Bib are usually not as affected as earnings as much as they are by data. Bristol Myers is not really a pure biotech name, so they were going to get more hit harder on earnings than some of the other names would. All right, we did Amgen. Fortinet. Wow, nice chart. Juniper reported tonight. They had decent earnings. I remember it looked good, at least initially. I didn't check back on it. You have big resistance at this 41 level. 41, then 41.50, and then you get above this recent range, you got a decent move up towards 44, I think, on this Fortinet. Just check earnings on it, okay? Fortinet Bib we did. Earnings for Bib was fine. We did that. X we did. AAOI. AAOI had a lot of call buying. It's had a nice move here. It's heated. So AAOI, I would not be initiating a news position up here. If I was long AAOI, since it's been holding the 8-day, I would stick with it as long as it did, but I'd be trimming on my way up. Okay? So I'd be taking profits, but I would keep long because I would try to stick with it as long as it wants to run. It's shown the ability to get very overbought in the past. So Pro Trader, nice chart. I like that one. UPS, we've seen a couple rumors of activist investors getting involved in this and has not yet gone yet. It's got this big gap here it's in. Right, so there, and the gap started here. So you can see it's worked its way nicely into this gap and it's still working higher, but it's really kind of, every time it hits the top of the Bollinger, it pulls back, but it's pretty much riding the 8-day. So here, I would try to buy it and move to the top of the Bollinger Band, then sell it. Buy and sell up there and up and down, up and down. Make sense? CNX. Nice curve here. Nice round, shooting up higher at this point. Getting a little heated, can get heated. Riding the 8-day. kind of a ugly little candle today. So I'd be a little careful on that candle for maybe a little bit of weakness or sideways action here, but overall it looks good. JD today, JD had call buyers today. I forgot to bring that one up. So JD's had a lot of call buyers. So the worst part about JD today is it opened, gapped up, and went red and gave you the opportunity to buy almost on the 8-day, and then just exploded up out of there today. They bought in the money. I think they bought the August 41 calls. Um, Broke above the high here, and now we're entering into blue sky territory on this name. So I like this name. They continue to come after him by call buying. I try to stay with it or sell the pops, buy the dips. Sell the pops, buy the dips. They play in the money calls on JD because it does not move big usually. PG has seen a lot of call buying. Earnings, I'm not sure. There were earnings here. Earnings might have happened already. Or are they here? I forget. No, I think they happened just right back in here. Nice move. Top of the Bollinger Band. It's going to need probably a little time to digest this to move above it. I could also see you had a downtrend here that kind of broke, and you could say you're getting kind of a little bit inverted head and shoulders look to this thing here. I'd keep an eye on this one. I like the look to it. It just doesn't move fast, so I don't generally play Procter & Gamble, Mark. Nice look to the chart, though. It's had some nice moves recently. McDonald's, good earnings, great move. January 170 call buyer today. Has room to run, but it's run a lot. So the only thing I would caution you on, look at this name from November to now. It's gone from 100 basically 108 to 160. It's hard to have high expectations for this thing to move a lot. It's not normally a quick mover. It had a big run here. See how it handles this gap up tomorrow, Mark, before getting involved. They did not come for short-term options on it. They went for the January 170s. So that tells you they want a lot of time in it. Tesla and Facebook, absolutely. So Tesla today. I did not touch Tesla today. I was tempted a couple times, but ultimately decided that I did not particularly like how it was trading. So let me clean this up for you guys. So I was talking about a potential head and shoulder here, and still kind of there. Your neckline's on a diagonal. It's the green line. What I like here is you got a gap to fill up here, a little $3 gap. It held the 8-day and the 21-day, but it closed back under the 50-day. There was no call buying in it today of note. So usually when they want this name, they come for it. They did buy 345 calls for this week yesterday into the highs. So they got a bunch of people trapped up in there now. They did this last week too, on Friday, and they closed them all. They closed all the on OPEX. They ate a lot of premium up, and then on Monday morning they didn't give anybody a chance. They exploded this thing right out of the gate. As long as it holds the 8-day mark, I'm sorry, whoever was asking about that, I think it's okay, but just be careful with it here. It's still not showing the power we're used to seeing in Tesla. That said, you have a $3 gap starting about 345, so this thing can run. Facebook has earnings this week. Lots of call buying. Put buying as well has been coming into it here. I have, you can try to scalp this thing the next 2 days for a move back to all-time highs. It has a history of not doing well and selling off after earnings and then coming back. I will not be trading Facebook at this point unless I see a scalpable trade where it has a lot of momentum, maybe off the 8-day. All right. GS. My thoughts on GS are very simple. They got downgraded yesterday and it lost the 200-day. And whenever all the other banks were going gangbusters today, it hit the 8-day and stopped on a dime and reversed and didn't even look back and closed back under the 50-day. It's back underneath all the moving averages again. I am just being super, super careful with this name. I'm not playing it right now. I like Morgan Stanley better. at this point, or JP Morgan. Nels, that's a lot of names. Pick one, bud, so I can get to some other people. I'll tell you what, I'll do the XLF. All right, I will do SN. We'll start with SN, Sanchez Energy, right? We'll come back to you if I have time. Really, with these names, all the energy names, I'm going to go right to the XLE, and for one good reason. We've been stuck in this downtrend. I keep posting this chart to you guys nonstop. And the 50-day has been resistance. You have a well-defined downtrend here. It's just not, it doesn't conform to like, good straight line. So here's what I'm seeing today. Oil has been very strong. I told you crude is up around 48.640 right now, still really nice. We lost the 50, we got above the 50-day, lost it, gap back above it today, but they didn't really, even though oil was strong, they didn't buy it, but we have earnings. If any sector can get going at this point, if oil doesn't sell off, it's going to be energy. That said, I am also going to be the most cautious with anything in this area because it's been so weak. Okay, Nils. So anybody wants to play these names, look at earnings and see where they go from here. Chesapeake's the same. These guys are all the same here. So I'll also do the XLF right now. And the reason I like the XLF, look at this gap. Gapped above to a new high here. One thing I'll tell you, the only my concern here is it does not like extending off the 8-day as much as it is here. So do not be chasing these things on the open. Wait till after the Fed. A little weakness here would go a long way and let the 8-day moving average catch up before we get another move in the XLF. Don, you're asking about Facebook. So Don, let me tell you what I did in Twitter. I can't tell you what to do. I have Twitter shares. I had 1,000 of them that I have an average price that was down about 19 bucks that I've been red on for freaking ever. I was actually buying it down in the 14s and 15s. And when it hit 2160 this week, I took off 600 the 400 and let, because I'm willing to buy them back lower, but I wanted to leave a runner on in case this was finally the time that Twitter decided to go. So I'm sticking with 400 shares to go higher here, Don. And if I was playing Facebook, I'd probably do something very similar, although at least Facebook always comes back. Twitter, not so much. And I love covered calls onto earnings because if as long as you're willing to have the stock called away at that price, why not? You make more money. And if you buy time, so if you went out to August or even September, hell knows, you might get a pullback in the markets and still not lose it and keep the cover call. So I always love cover calls. I do lots of cover calls in my retirement account. We did JD, guys. We did UPS. We did PG. Dow. Yep, Dow had that big call buyer. I remember that. I pointed that out to you guys. Not reacting to it, right? I always say, you look at it, play the action, not doing it. Lost the 50-day at this point, below the moving averages. Has some support around 50-50, right? You can even extend this and see we had it from here. This, again, this is a tough area to call support in. But you can see there's stuff here, right? You see how I'm drawing my lines? I'm looking there. So these are areas that still look good. I don't like, we need a reversal candle for me to get into Dow. It is extended to the downside and off the 8-day. So I would look for some reversal, at least for a short-term bounce soon. NVIDIA, so NVIDIA, first we'll start here. And the reason is NVIDIA has a nice tight setup. On Friday, I did not like that move because the volume is low. When a stock moves to an new all-time high and low volume, I'm always a little worried. And sure enough, Monday we gapped down and reversed. Today, it moved down on the STX news and came back up and closed above the 8-day. And since you guys are asking, NVIDIA exploded on AMD and is at 167 here. So we're set to open right back up into this range here at this point. I like NVIDIA a lot. I would not be surprised if we get volume in this thing tomorrow and it breaks to a new all-time high and goes over 170. So I like NVIDIA here. I will be looking to play NVIDIA tomorrow. How's that answer that question for you? INDL. And guys, I am losing my voice, so I'm going to give you three more, and we'll go from there. I will definitely do CRM because I want to talk about that one. India 3 times leverage ETF. Man, that's a tough one. NK, I don't generally trade the ETFs, the overseas ETFs, and stuff like this. So here's my thing. From a technical perspective, it's a good looking chart. It's riding the 8-day, but it's really gappy, and you have to hold it overnight. It's hard to play this intraday. This is obviously something you like and you have some feeling in, so I would stay with it as long as it has stayed above the 8-day, depending on where I got in it from. I would not be initiating up here, right? It's getting heated. I would not expect this to go much higher. CRM, the call buyers have been all over this, so I'm going to give you two looks on this one. So CRM, this is all call buying, most of it out into September, some August, some shorter term, but mostly out into September. We've seen call buying on this nonstop. And here at this point, after showing 2 days of weakness, it held the 21-day, and you got this big candle today right back to the top of this range. For me to want to get long this, it's got to take this range out with some power, and then I would look for a run back to 92. Not a lot of movement left in this name. Earnings are a little ways off. This name is tough. It trades very tough. I do like the setup, though, and I like all the call buying. Shorts in Rev and Sig, Simon. I love somebody wants to see a short. Sig has seen put buying after put buyer, and then I think I saw some call buying the other day. This name, every time it bounces, it gets sold back off. That said, this was a nasty move. It's recovered a lot of it. I don't know if I'd short this candle here, Simon. It's too powerful for me, and it had volume, right? You can see the volume on it. I would look for some type of reversal. So a candle like this, some type of shooting star reversal candle to try to short into, okay? Last one we're going to do, we did along this VRX. I want to talk about VRX because I did trade VRX today. So VRX, they were buying weekly 1750s, 18s, 1850 calls, and I traded with common. It closed weak, and it was very tight setup. Very, very tight setup. Earnings are next week, so they were only playing weeklies. I played this with common because this thing can squeeze. It really can. If this thing before earnings gets above this candle, look out. It'll hit 19 in a heartbeat. So off the 8-day, I would keep trying this one or looking to try this one at this point, as long as biotech's not selling off. Guys, I really appreciate you guys coming. I did talk about CRM. I talked about Costco. We talked VRX. And I appreciate you guys joining me tonight for these free webinars. I love doing them for you. I hope you guys always get something great out of it. And I'm going to wish you guys all a wonderful night. And check me out. Try my service out. Give it a look. You guys are going to really like it. Lots of good stuff. Intraday charts. Probably even start doing some live streaming intraday as we move forward here. So just starting to get going there. Everybody have a great night, and I'll see you on Twitter. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, guys.